The Council of the Stars believed it ruled the galaxy. Their great chamber floated in orbit around a blue giant star. The light of that star passed through crystal walls and filled the hall with cold silver glow. Hundreds of seats formed a wide circle. In those seats sat the leaders of the oldest and strongest civilizations in known space. They called themselves Guardians of Order. They believed nothing could surprise them. At the center of the chamber, a holographic image of Earth rotated slowly. Clouds moved across blue oceans. Cities glittered in the dark. A thin voice broke the silence. Humans continue expanding beyond their assigned sectors. The speaker was High Speaker Vero, an old and careful leader. His species had ruled star systems before humanity had even discovered fire. His eyes remained fixed on the floating image. They have established 3 new colonies in Outer Rim territory, he continued. Without council approval, murmurs spread through the chamber. They breed quickly. They fight often. They innovate too fast. Another figure leaned forward. This was General Kane, commander of the Council Defense Fleet. His voice carried confidence. Humans are emotional, he said. They build weapons before they build wisdom. We have seen their kind before. Young species burn bright and collapse. Soft laughter echoed across the hall. The hologram changed. It now showed human warships, angular, metallic, practical. Nothing elegant. Nothing ancient. Primitive compared to council vessels. They're increasing military production, said a scientist named Lyra. Our observers confirm unusual energy research facilities near their outer systems. General Kane waved a hand dismissively. Energy experiments. Every rising species believes it has discovered something revolutionary. High Speaker Vero remained quiet for a long moment. Still, he said slowly, they have advanced faster than projections. That part no one liked to admit. In less than 3 centuries, humanity had gone from a divided planet to a unified interstellar force. They had survived internal wars, climate disasters, resource collapse. Instead of dying, they adapted. They always adapted. Another council member spoke. Perhaps it is time to limit them, restrict trade, slow their expansion, or remove them, someone else added coldly. The chamber grew quiet again. High Speaker Vero finally raised a hand. We will not erase a species without clear cause, but we will remind them of their place. A vote was called. Surveillance would increase. Military presence near human borders would double. A formal warning would be prepared. The council believed the matter was simple. They did not know that, at that same moment, something unusual was happening far beyond their sight. Deep in human space, near a quiet red dwarf star, a massive shipyard floated in darkness. No bright lights. No loud engines. Only silent construction frames moving with perfect precision. Inside the largest dock, a shape waited. It did not look like any normal ship. It was long and smooth, almost like a blade made of night itself. Its surface did not reflect starlight. It seemed to absorb it. Around the hull, space looked slightly distorted, like heat rising from metal. Engineers stood inside a control chamber, watching readings. Core stability at 99%, one said calmly. Dark matter containment holding, another replied. A man in a simple uniform nodded once. His name was Admiral Reed. Begin final phase, he ordered. Far below the chamber, in the heart of the vessel, something impossible pulsed. Not fusion. Not antimatter. Dark matter. Human scientists had spent 100 years studying the invisible mass that filled the universe. While other species ignored it as untouchable mystery, humans asked a dangerous question. What if it could be controlled? The answer had changed everything. The ship's core activated fully. For one brief second, gravity inside the dock shifted. Tools trembled. Loose objects slid slightly toward the hull. Then it stabilized. Outside the system, long-range sensors belonging to the council flickered with small errors. Tiny gravitational distortions. So small they were dismissed as natural fluctuations. Back in the council chamber, the meeting continued. General Kane spoke confidently. We will send a patrol group to the outer human sectors. A simple reminder. Approval signals lit up across the room. The decision was final. A fleet would depart within hours. High Speaker Vero looked once more at the image of Earth. Humanity is young, he said softly. They must learn that the galaxy already has rulers. The hologram faded. The session ended. Far away, the first human dark matter warship completed its ignition cycle. It did not roar. It did not shine. It simply bent space around itself and vanished from normal sight. No warp flash. No energy trail. Only silence. And in that silence, the balance of the galaxy had already begun to change. The Council of the Stars just did not know it yet. The Council Patrol Fleet entered the border system with full confidence. 5 warships moved in perfect formation. Their silver hulls reflected the light of a pale yellow star. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were active. Their sensors scanned every rock, every signal, every dust cloud. This was meant to be a simple mission. A reminder. Captain Doran stood on the bridge of the lead ship. He watched the holographic display in front of him. Human territory was only 3 jumps away. Any unusual readings? He asked calmly. Negative, replied the sensor officer. System is quiet. No human ships detected. Doran nodded. Transmit Council Authority Code. Let them know we are here. The message went out across the system. No reply came. Strange. Even young civilizations understood the importance of answering the Council. Minutes passed. Still nothing. Run a deeper scan, Doran ordered. The sensor officer adjusted controls. The display flickered for a moment. Sir, I am detecting minor gravitational variance near the outer asteroid belt. Doran frowned. Natural? It appears small. Could be stellar interference. He hesitated, but it is consistent. Doran stared at the readings. The numbers were slightly off. Space itself seemed heavier in that region. Move closer, he ordered. The 5 ships adjusted course. As they approached the asteroid belt, something felt wrong. Stars behind the belt looked distorted, stretched slightly as if seen through water. The sensor officer's voice tightened. Gravitational fluctuation increasing. But there is no mass large enough to cause this. Doran's jaw tightened. Show me. The main screen zoomed in. At first, there was nothing. Just empty space. Then one of the escort ships suddenly shook. Report. Doran shouted. Sir, our port stabilizers just spiked. Gravity is pulling unevenly across the hull. Before anyone could react, the shaking stopped. Silence returned. Status. Doran demanded. All systems normal. Came the reply from the escort ship. It lasted less than a second. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy looks. Doran opened a direct channel to all ships. Maintain formation. Increase shield output. The fleet moved forward slowly. Then the stars dimmed. It was subtle, almost impossible to notice at first. The system's light seemed slightly weaker, as if something invisible stood between the fleet and the sun. The sensor officer's hands froze over the controls. Sir, something is there. Where? Directly ahead. The main screen adjusted contrast. And space moved. Not like a ship moving. Like reality shifting. A dark shape slowly revealed itself. It did not shine. It did not reflect. It was darker than the void around it. Massive. Longer than all 5 council ships combined. Its surface was smooth and curved, like a blade made of shadow. Around it, light bent inward. Stars behind it appeared stretched and twisted. Captain Doran felt his throat go dry. No engine signature, whispered the sensor officer. No weapon locks, said another. The shape simply floated there. Watching. Identify vessel. Doran transmitted. You are in council-monitored space. No reply came. The dark shape moved slightly closer. Not by firing engines, but by bending space around itself. Doran felt fear rise in his chest for the first time in many cycles. Charge main weapons, he ordered. The council ships powered up plasma cannons. The dark vessel did nothing. Fire warning shot. A bright beam of energy shot across space. It never reached the target. Halfway there, the beam curved, pulled sideways by invisible force, and vanished. The bridge went silent. Gravitational manipulation, the sensor officer whispered. Before Doran could give another command, every alarm on the bridge screamed at once. Massive gravity spike. Hull metal groaned. Crew members grabbed consoles to stay upright as artificial gravity failed. Stabilizers collapsing. The dark vessel had not fired a weapon. It had simply increased gravity around the fleet. For one terrible second, the pressure crushed against the ships from all sides. One escort ship folded inward like thin metal crushed by a giant hand. Another twisted apart, torn by uneven force. Doran screamed orders that no one could follow. Emergency warp. The words never finished. The flagship's hull cracked down the center. Screens shattered. The last thing Captain Doran saw was the dark shape drifting closer, silent and untouched. Then everything went black. Hours later, a distant council listening post tried to contact the patrol fleet. No response. They scanned the system. No wreckage. No debris field. No energy signatures. Just empty space. The gravitational readings were normal again. As if nothing had ever happened. Back in the grand chamber of the council, a quiet report was delivered. Patrol Fleet Omega has failed to report. General Kane frowned. Mechanical failure? Unlikely. All 5 ships vanished simultaneously. The chamber grew still. High Speaker Vero spoke slowly. Send a second fleet. Larger. Heavily armed. No one laughed this time. Somewhere in deep space, the dark vessel turned and slipped away, bending reality around itself. Silent. Unseen. And the Council of the Stars began to understand something dangerous. Humanity had not been experimenting with simple energy research. They had been building something the galaxy had never seen before. The Second Fleet did not move with confidence. It moved with caution. 10 heavy warships and 20 support vessels formed a tight defensive sphere as they entered the same border system where the First Fleet had vanished. Weapons were fully armed. Shields were reinforced beyond normal limits. Long-range probes were launched ahead of them. At the center of the formation stood the flagship, commanded by Admiral Reth. He was not a man who believed in fear. He believed in power. The First Fleet was careless, he said calmly to his officers. We will not repeat their mistakes. The system appeared normal at first glance. The same pale yellow star. The same drifting asteroid belt. The same silence. Too much silence. Begin deep gravitational scan, Reth ordered. Sensors pushed beyond standard limits, mapping invisible forces across the system. For a few seconds, everything looked stable. Then the numbers shifted. Admiral, we are detecting microdistortions across multiple sectors, the sensor chief reported. Natural? No known stellar body is responsible. Reth stepped closer to the main display. Tiny waves rippled across the holographic map. Not violent. Not chaotic. Controlled. Spread formation, Reth commanded. Maintain distance between ships. The fleet adjusted carefully. As they moved closer to the asteroid belt, long-range probes ahead of them began to malfunction. Probe 1 lost. Probe 3 offline. No explosion signatures, the officer added nervously. They simply stopped transmitting. Reth's expression hardened. Then something strange happened. The stars behind the asteroid belt began to bend. Not dim. Not disappear. Bend. Light curved slightly around an unseen shape. It was faint at first, like heat waves rising from hot metal. But it grew clearer as the fleet approached. Magnify Sector 7, Reth ordered. The image zoomed in. At first, there was nothing but darkness. Then the darkness moved. A shape revealed itself slowly, as if the void itself was peeling away. Gasps filled the bridge. It was enormous, long and smooth, without visible weapons or engines. Its surface swallowed light instead of reflecting it. Around it, space shimmered as if reality struggled to stay flat. Is that human design? Someone whispered. Confirmed, the intelligence officer replied after scanning the structure. Hull composition matches human alloy signatures. But no energy emissions, another officer said. No power readings at all. The ship floated silently. Watching them, Admiral Reth felt something unfamiliar crawl through his thoughts. Uncertainty. He activated a wide transmission channel. Unidentified human vessel. You are ordered to identify yourself and explain the destruction of Council Fleet Omega. The message echoed across the void. No answer came. Instead, the dark vessel shifted position slightly. Not forward. Not sideways. It simply appeared closer. The distance between them had shortened without visible movement. How did it move? An officer asked. Space displacement detected, the sensor chief replied. It is not traveling. It is bending the space between points. Reth's hands tightened behind his back. Lock weapons, he said. All Council ships targeted the dark vessel at once. Energy cannons charged, glowing bright blue against the darkness. Fire. 20 beams of concentrated plasma shot across space. And then something impossible happened. The beams slowed. Not instantly. Gradually. As if they were flying through thick liquid. Then they curved. Every beam twisted away from the dark ship and spiraled harmlessly into empty space. Shock spread across the fleet. That is gravitational lensing, the sensor chief said, his voice shaking. It is redirecting our attacks by bending gravity itself. Before Reth could issue another order, a wave passed through the fleet. Not a visible wave. A feeling. Artificial gravity systems fluctuated wildly. Some crew members were lifted off their feet. Others were slammed downward. Gravity spike across all ships, someone shouted. Hull plates groaned under pressure. One support vessel drifted slightly off formation. Then the spike stopped. Just like that. No explosions. No destroyed ships. The dark vessel had not attacked to kill. It had demonstrated control. Reth stared at the massive shadow before them. They are showing restraint, he muttered. The dark ship slowly rotated, revealing its full length. It was larger than any Council battleship ever built. And there were more distortions appearing behind it. Faint outlines. Shapes forming in the void. Multiple gravitational signatures detected, the sensor chief said. At least 5 more objects emerging. One by one, additional dark vessels revealed themselves from warped space. Each one massive. Each one silent. The Council fleet now faced a wall of black warships. Not aggressive. Not retreating. Simply present. Admiral Reth made his decision. Pull back, he ordered quietly. Some officers looked shocked. Admiral? That was not an attack, Reth said firmly. That was a warning. The fleet slowly reversed course, never turning their backs fully. The dark vessels did not pursue. They did not fire. They did not transmit. They only watched as the Council ships retreated beyond the asteroid belt. Back on the flagship, silence filled the bridge. Transmit full report to the Council, Reth said at last. Include all sensor data. Every reading. And the conclusion, Admiral? The communications officer asked. Reth looked at the image of the Shadow Fleet one final time. Humanity has developed gravitational weapon systems far beyond our understanding, he said slowly. They are not experimenting. He paused. They are ready. As the Council fleet exited the system, the dark matter warships faded once more into distortion, blending with the fabric of space. Silent. Hidden. Waiting. And for the first time in history, the Council of the Stars began to feel something they had not felt in thousands of years. Uncertainty. The Council chamber was no longer calm. The silver light from the blue giant star still filled the hall, but now it felt cold. The seats that once held pride now held tension. Reports from Admiral Reth's fleet played again and again on the central hologram. Black ships. Light bending. Weapons curving away like toys thrown by children. General Kane stood in the center of the chamber. His strong voice no longer carried confidence. It carried frustration. They could have destroyed the entire fleet, he said. Instead, they chose not to. Murmurs spread. That makes it worse, one council member whispered. High Speaker Vero watched the recording closely. The image froze on one of the dark vessels. Its surface looked smooth and endless, like part of the void itself. "Explain it again," Vero said to the lead scientist, Lyra. Lyra stepped forward. Her hands moved across a floating display, bringing up graphs and numbers. "The human ships are not using conventional propulsion," she said carefully. "There are no fusion trails, no antimatter signatures. Instead, they are manipulating gravitational fields directly." "That is impossible," another member said sharply. "Dark matter cannot be touched. It does not react." "That is what we believed," Lyra replied. She enlarged a section of the recording. Plasma beams from the Council fleet were shown slowing, bending, and disappearing. They are shaping gravity around their vessels, bending space itself. That level of control requires interaction with dark matter mass. Silence fell. Dark matter was the hidden weight of the universe. Every advanced species knew it existed. None had ever been able to control it. It passed through normal matter, like wind through dust. Until now. General Kane crossed his arms. Even if they have achieved this, how many ships could they possibly build? Such power must require enormous resources. Before Lyra could respond, a new signal appeared in the center of the chamber. An incoming transmission. Origin Earth. The chamber grew still. High Speaker Vero nodded. "Allow it." The hologram shifted. A human figure appeared. The man wore a simple dark uniform. No medals. No decorations. His face was calm. "My name is Admiral Hayes," he said evenly. "I speak on behalf of the United Earth Command."
No bow.
No sign of submission. General Kane's jaw tightened. High Speaker Vero answered, "You have engaged Council forces without declaration." Hayes did not react. "Your patrol fleet entered our border without permission. They opened fire first." "They were investigating suspicious activity," Kane replied sharply. Hayes gave a small nod.
"Yes."
"Our ships." The chamber stirred with quiet anger. Vero lifted a hand for silence. "Explain your technology." Hayes paused for a moment. "For over a century," he began, "human scientists have studied dark matter. While other civilizations accepted its mystery, we asked a different question." The hologram behind him changed. Images of human laboratories, massive underground facilities, and orbiting research stations appeared. "We learned how to anchor dark matter particles within magnetic gravitational fields," Hayes continued. "We developed containment cores that allow limited interaction." Lyra leaned forward in shock. "Containment? That would require negative energy balance." "Yes," Hayes replied calmly. "It did." The human behind him activated a small demonstration. A holographic moon appeared. Slowly, the moon's orbit shifted. Not violently.
Gently. Controlled.
Gasps filled the council chamber. "That is a simulation," General Kane snapped. Hayes' eyes remained steady.
"No."
"It is live feed." Coordinates appeared on screen. Council sensors quickly confirmed the location. A distant, uninhabited moon was indeed shifting its orbit. Not drifting. Moving by design. The room fell silent.
"Why?"
Vero asked quietly. "Because we learned something you did not," Hayes answered. The image behind him changed again. A deep space scan appeared. Far beyond the galaxy's outer rim, a faint distortion moved slowly inward. "It is coming," Hayes said simply. "A mass of collapsed stellar matter, older than our recorded history. It consumes systems through gravitational collapse." Confusion spread across the chamber. "Our projections estimate arrival within decades," Hayes continued. "We built the dark matter fleet not for conquest, but for survival." General Kane shook his head. "If such a threat existed, we would know." Hayes looked directly at him. "You were not looking." The word struck harder than any weapon. High Speaker Vero studied the approaching anomaly. It was faint but real. "Then why show us this?" Vero asked. "Because your fleets are moving closer to our borders," Hayes replied. "Because you consider limiting us, controlling us." His voice did not rise. But understand this, he continued. Humanity will not kneel. We will defend ourselves. And when the threat reaches this galaxy, we will defend it too. The chamber was completely silent now. No anger, no laughter, only thought. Hayes gave one final statement. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for war. The transmission ended. The hologram faded. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, High Speaker Vero said softly, "We believed they were children playing with dangerous tools." He looked around the chamber. They were building shields. General Kane did not argue this time. Beyond the council chamber, in hidden sectors of space, dark matter warships drifted silently between stars, waiting. And for the first time in their long history, the Council of the Stars began to question whether humanity had already stepped beyond them. The council chamber was divided. Some members believed the human admiral. Others called it a clever lie. Fear had entered the room, but pride was still stronger. General Kane stood tall in the center circle. "They are trying to scare us," he said firmly. "A story about an ancient threat. A display of power. It is a tactic." "They moved a moon," Lyra replied quietly. "A controlled stunt," Kane answered. "If they truly had unlimited power, they would have attacked us already." Murmurs of agreement spread through half the chamber. High Speaker Vero watched in silence. He had seen many wars in his lifetime. He had watched empires rise and fall. But something about the human message felt different. "They destroyed one fleet," Kane continued. "They forced another to retreat. And now they speak of peace, while showing weapons capable of crushing stars." He turned to the chamber. "If we allow this to continue, humanity will believe they are equal to us." A cold voice answered from across the hall. "Perhaps they are." The room stiffened. General Kane ignored the comment. "We must test them. Not with full war. A limited action." "What kind of action?" Vero asked carefully. "A seizure," Kane replied. "One of their outer colonies. Small. Isolated. We will show them that power alone does not grant authority." Lyra stepped forward quickly. "That is dangerous." "It is necessary," Kane snapped. "If they truly seek peace, they will negotiate. If they attack, we will measure their limits." The chamber fell into uneasy thought. Finally, the vote was called. It passed. By a narrow margin. 3 days later, a council strike fleet moved toward a human colony near the outer rim. The colony was young, built on a rocky world orbiting a white star. It had mining stations, research domes, and only light defensive systems. Perfect for a demonstration. The fleet consisted of 8 warships and multiple troop carriers. Enough to intimidate. Enough to win if resistance appeared. Commander Tal led the operation. He was loyal to General Kane and confident in the plan. "Human colony in range," his sensor officer reported. "Minimal defense platforms detected." Tal nodded. "Open channel." A human voice answered almost immediately. "This is Colony Base Orion. You are entering sovereign human territory." Tal kept his tone cold. "By authority of the Council of the Stars, this colony is under investigation for illegal gravitational weapons research. Power down your defenses and prepare for inspection." There was a brief pause. Then the human voice replied calmly, "Request denied." Tal's eyes narrowed. "You refuse council authority?" "We refuse unlawful seizure," the human answered. "You have been warned before." Tal cut the transmission. "Advance," he ordered. The fleet moved closer to the planet. Weapon systems powered up. Troop carriers prepared landing craft. On the colony surface, civilians were evacuated into underground shelters. There was no panic, only preparation. High above the planet, something shifted in space. At first, it looked like a distortion in starlight. A ripple in the darkness. Commander Tal noticed it too late. "Unidentified gravitational anomaly," the sensor officer shouted. Before Tal could react, space folded. A single dark shape appeared between the council fleet and the colony. It was larger than any ship Tal had seen before. Long, silent. Smooth like polished stone. Stars bent around it. "Human warship confirmed," the officer whispered. The dark matter vessel did not transmit. It did not power weapons. It simply existed there, blocking the path. Tal swallowed but forced strength into his voice. Open fire. Target engines. 8 Council warships fired at once. Plasma beams streaked toward the dark ship. They slowed,
Curved.
vanished. The human vessel remained untouched. Tal felt sweat form along his neck. Prepare full volley, he shouted. Before the command could complete, every alarm screamed. Gravity spike. Local field intensity rising. Crew members were thrown against walls as artificial gravity failed. Outside, space itself seemed to compress. The Council ships began to groan. Hull plates bent inward. Support struts snapped. Tal gripped his command chair as pressure crushed against the flagship. Stabilizers failing. The dark matter ship had not moved. It had not fired a visible weapon. It had simply increased gravity around the fleet for 1 single second. 1 second was enough. 2 warships collapsed instantly, crushed like empty shells. A third split apart under stress. The remaining ship struggled to hold formation as systems failed. Then, just as suddenly, the pressure vanished. Silence returned. Debris floated where proud vessels had stood moments before. The human ship still hovered, unmoving. Tal's breathing was heavy. Half his fleet was gone. A transmission finally came from the dark vessel. The same calm human voice spoke. You were warned. Nothing more. No threat. No anger. Tal stared at the broken remains of his fleet. Retreat, he whispered. The surviving ships turned and fled at maximum speed. The dark matter warship did not pursue. It remained in orbit over the human colony, like a silent guardian. Back in the council chamber, the battle report played in stunned silence. General Kane's face was pale. High Speaker Vero closed his eyes briefly. They did not destroy all of them, Vero said quietly. No, Lyra answered. They allowed survivors. The message was clear. Humanity could have erased the fleet entirely. They chose restraint.
For now.
And as the chamber lights dimmed against the blue star outside, the Council of the Stars began to realize something terrifying. They were no longer the strongest power in the galaxy. And humanity was done asking for permission. The council chamber felt smaller than before. No one laughed now. No one spoke with pride. The wreckage of the strike fleet still drifted near the human colony, and every sensor recording had been studied again and again. The dark matter warship had not fired missiles. It had not used beams. It had simply increased gravity. For 1 second. And that was enough. General Kane stood before the chamber, but his voice was no longer strong. They are escalating, he said. If we do nothing, every species in this galaxy will see our weakness. They already have, Lyra replied softly. High Speaker Vero raised his hand for silence. What do you suggest? He asked Kane. The general hesitated only a moment. A full demonstration of our power. We gather the Grand Defense Fleet. We move it to human borders. We force negotiations from strength. Vero studied him carefully. And if they respond the same way? Kane's jaw tightened. Then we will know the limits of their strength. The vote came quickly this time. Fear had replaced arrogance. The Grand Defense Fleet would move. It was the largest armada the Council had assembled in centuries. 50 warships, carriers, support craft, heavy artillery platforms. Enough firepower to burn continents. They gathered in a system only 2 jumps from human territory. Admiral Reth stood once again on the bridge of his flagship. His earlier caution had been replaced by resolve. We do not fire unless fired upon, he told his officers. We hold position and wait. Across the fleet, weapons were ready. Shields glowed bright across every hull. A message was sent to Earth. This is the Grand Defense Fleet of the Council of the Stars. You will stand down your dark matter vessels and submit to inspection. The reply came within minutes. No. Just one word. Reth felt tension spread across his bridge. Then space changed. Not in front of the fleet. Not behind. Everywhere. Stars flickered slightly, as if reality itself blinked. Gravitational distortions forming across the system, the sensor chief shouted. Reth looked at the display. They were surrounded, not by visible ships, but by warped space. Then, one by one, dark shapes emerged.
10, 20,
30. More than anyone expected. Human dark matter warships appeared from folded space, forming a silent ring around the Grand Defense Fleet. They were not in attack formation. They were in control. Reth's breathing slowed. How many? 42 confirmed, the sensor chief answered. 42. Nearly matching the entire Grand Fleet. And that was only what they revealed. A transmission opened automatically across all channels. Admiral Hayes appeared again. His face remained calm. You were warned, he said. General Kane's voice broke into the channel from the council chamber. You dare surround a sovereign fleet? Hayes did not react. You brought a war armada to our borders. We came for inspection, Kane insisted. With planetary bombardment cannons? Hayes asked quietly. Silence answered him. Then Hayes gave a small nod. Very well. You seek to measure our limits. We will demonstrate. Reth felt his heart drop. Brace for impact, he shouted. But no attack came. Instead, every ship in the Grand Fleet experienced a sudden shift. Artificial gravity increased. Not violently. Gradually. The crew members felt heavier. Consoles creaked under pressure. Gravity rising across the entire fleet, the sensor chief reported. Uniform field. Perfectly balanced. The ships were being pressed inward from all sides, but evenly. No tearing. No crushing. Just pressure. A demonstration. Field intensity at 50% of structural tolerance, the officer continued, voice shaking. If it increased further, hulls would collapse like the previous fleet. Admiral Reth understood. They were being held in a giant invisible hand. The dark matter warships had created a gravity well around the entire armada. Controlled.
Precise.
Hayes spoke again. This is 30% of our fleet's combined output. Murmurs of fear spread across council channels. 30%. The pressure increased slightly. Metal groaned. Warning lights flashed. 40%. Hayes continued calmly. Reth gripped his command chair. Sweat ran down his face. He believed him. If they reached full output, the Grand Fleet would vanish in seconds. Enough. High Speaker Vero's voice cut in sharply. Stand down. The pressure stopped instantly. Gravity returned to normal. Across the system, the dark matter warships remained in position, silent and unmoving. Hayes looked directly into the council chamber through the open transmission. We do not seek your destruction, he said. But understand this clearly. We cannot be threatened. General Kane had no answer. For the first time, the strongest fleet in the galaxy had been completely powerless. Not defeated in battle. Controlled. Reth lowered his head slightly. We withdraw, he said quietly. The Grand Defense Fleet slowly turned away. As they retreated, the dark matter warships faded back into warp space, disappearing without light or sound, leaving only normal stars behind. Back in the council chamber, no one spoke for a long time. They had witnessed the truth. Humanity did not need to conquer. They did not need to shout. They could silence entire fleets with a single controlled pulse of gravity. And on that day, the Council of the Stars understood something that shook them more than any explosion ever could. Power no longer belonged to them. News travels fast in the galaxy, but fear travels faster. Within days, recordings of the Grand Defense Fleet being held in a gravity field spread across trade networks, diplomatic channels, and private communication lines. Civilizations that once feared the Council now whispered a different name. Humanity. In the Great Chamber, the Council of the Stars gathered again. The silver light of the blue giant star shone as always, but the mood had changed completely. No pride. No laughter. Only silence. High Speaker Vero stood slowly. His voice carried weight, but not authority like before. We must decide our next action. General Kane looked older than he had weeks ago. His uniform was still perfect, but his confidence was cracked. They humiliated us, he said quietly. Before the entire galaxy. They demonstrated control. Lyra corrected. Not destruction. Kane did not argue. A report appeared in the center of the chamber. Trade worlds were already adjusting alliances. Border species were strengthening relations with Earth. Some smaller civilizations were even requesting human protection treaties. The balance of power was shifting, and it was happening without a single human invasion. They are not expanding aggressively, Lyra said. They are not attacking anyone. That is what makes this worse, another member replied. They do not need to. Vero nodded slowly. Has humanity sent further communication? He asked. Yes, the communications officer answered. A general broadcast to all major governments. Play it. The hologram activated. Admiral Hayes appeared once more. He stood in a simple command room. No flags. No symbols of dominance. Only stars visible through a wide viewport behind him.
His voice was calm.
To the civilizations of this galaxy, he began, recent events have caused concern. He paused briefly. Humanity does not seek war. We do not seek control of the Council. We do not seek to replace one ruler with another. The Council chamber remained still. But we will not kneel, Hayes continued. We will not allow threats against our people. Behind him, an image appeared. Deep space scans. The faint distortion far beyond the outer rim. The reason for our preparation is simple, Hayes said. Something is coming. It does not care about borders or politics. It does not care who rules. The distortion pulsed faintly. We have been preparing for over a century, Hayes said. We will continue preparing. He looked directly into the camera. Any civilization willing to stand as equal partners is welcome. Any who choose hostility will be met with defense. The message ended. Silence returned to the council chamber. General Kane exhaled slowly. They speak of equality as if it is a gift. Vero looked around the room. For the first time in our history, he said quietly, we face a power we cannot command. No one disagreed. Across the galaxy, reactions were immediate. On distant trade stations, merchants began adjusting shipping routes toward human space. On border worlds, leaders debated new alliances. Even old rival species paused their conflicts, watching carefully. The message was clear. Humanity was not attacking, but they were ready. And that readiness was louder than any threat. In a hidden system near the edge of human territory, dozens of dark matter warships drifted in silent formation. They looked peaceful, but inside each vessel, crews monitored deep space sensors constantly. In one command chamber, Admiral Hayes stood before a wide display. The approaching anomaly had grown slightly larger. Still distant.
Still faint.
But closer than before. A young officer stepped beside him. Council fleets are pulling back across multiple sectors, she reported. Hayes nodded once. They have learned. For now, the officer added. Hayes gave a small, tired smile. For now is enough. He looked at the projection of the galaxy. The Council still held power. They still controlled vast regions. But something had changed. Respect had replaced dismissal. Fear had replaced arrogance. And silence had replaced mockery. Back in the Council chamber, High Speaker Vero made a final statement before ending the session. We will suspend all aggressive operations against human space. The decision passed without resistance. General Kane remained seated long after others left. He stared at the holographic replay of the dark matter fleet. They did not destroy us, he whispered to himself. They wanted us to understand. Outside the chamber windows, the blue giant star burned brightly. Unchanged. But the galaxy around it was not the same. Humanity had not conquered. They had not invaded. They had not declared themselves rulers. They had simply shown what they were capable of. And in doing so, they had forced the most powerful government in the galaxy into something it had not felt in thousands of years.
Silence.
Not silence of defeat, but silence of realization. The Council of the Stars had always believed they were the guardians of order. Now, they were no longer sure. Because somewhere beyond the rim of known space, something ancient was moving closer. and the only ones truly ready for it were the same species they once called young. The galaxy was watching, waiting, and for the first time it was not watching the Council. It was watching humanity. The silence did not last. It turned into argument. Inside the great chamber of the Council, voices rose higher than they had in centuries. The calm silver light from the blue giant star now felt sharp and cold. Leaders who once agreed easily now stood on opposite sides. High Speaker Vero watched as the chamber split into two clear groups. On one side stood General Kane and those who still believed in strength above all else. On the other side stood Lyra and those who believed survival now required cooperation. "They have already replaced us," Kane said loudly. "Smaller systems are seeking their protection. Trade routes are shifting. If we do nothing, the Council will fade." "We fade only if we refuse to adapt," Lyra replied. "Humanity has not attacked anyone beyond their borders." "They do not need to," Kane answered. "Fear does their work for them." Murmurs of agreement followed. Vero raised his hand, but this time the room did not quiet immediately. "They control gravity itself," Kane continued. "What stops them from crushing our core worlds tomorrow?" "They have had the power for years," Lyra said calmly. "If they wanted domination, they would have acted already." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. It was true. Humanity had shown power again and again, but always with control. Always with restraint. Vero finally spoke. "We need facts, not fear." He turned toward the central display. "Show us everything we know about their fleet." The hologram filled with data gathered from encounters. Gravitational spikes. Energy signatures. Warp distortions. Lyra stepped forward and expanded one section. "Our estimates suggest at least 60 dark matter warships," she said. "Possibly more hidden." A wave of tension passed through the room. "That number alone shifts the balance of power," one council member whispered. "And this is only their military," Lyra added. "Their research facilities continue to expand." She changed the display again. Hidden deep inside several human systems were massive structures, circular rings surrounding small artificial singularities. Dark matter containment cores larger than cities. "They are increasing production," Kane said quietly. "Yes," Lyra answered. "But not for invasion."
She zoomed out the map.
The faint anomaly beyond the galaxy's rim pulsed slowly. "It is closer," she said. The distortion had grown slightly since the last report. Still distant. Still decades away. But undeniably moving. A cold feeling settled over the chamber. "What if it is a lie?" one member asked. "A projection created to justify their armament?" Vero looked at Lyra. She shook her head slowly. "Independent sensors confirm it. The mass is real." The room became still. For the first time, fear was not about humanity.
It was about what might be coming.
Far from the council chamber, in deep human space, a hidden station orbited a dim star. Inside its command hall, Admiral Hayes stood with several officers and scientists. The atmosphere was serious but calm. "Council fleets have withdrawn fully from our borders," an officer reported. Hayes nodded. "And internal council transmissions?" he asked. "Divided. Some demand war. Others request diplomatic channels." Hayes turned toward a large projection of the anomaly. "How long until first contact?" he asked the lead scientist. "Based on current speed," the scientist replied, 23 years. "That is not much time," Hayes said quietly. Another officer stepped forward. "Should we reveal everything to the council?" she asked. Hayes considered the question. "Not yet," he answered. "They must choose cooperation on their own." He looked again at the projection. The anomaly was not just a mass. It was a moving region of collapsed stellar matter, dense, unstable, consuming anything caught in its path through gravitational disruption. Entire systems could be torn apart, and humanity had built their dark matter fleet to hold it back. Back in the council chamber, debate reached its peak. General Kane stepped into the center. "If we join them," he said, "we admit they are our equals." Lyra answered calmly, "If we refuse, we may not survive long enough to argue about status." Some members lowered their heads. Pride had guided the council for thousands of years. But pride could not bend gravity. Varro stood slowly. "We will open limited diplomatic talks," he announced. Gasps echoed. "Not alliance," he continued. "Not surrender. Talks." Kane looked ready to protest, but he remained silent. The vote passed narrowly. A message would be sent to Earth. Not a threat. Not a command. A request for discussion. For the first time in its history, the Council of the Stars would speak to another power without assuming control. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations watched closely. Some hoped for peace. Others feared war. But everyone understood one truth. The balance of power had changed forever. Humanity had not asked for the galaxy's attention. They had forced it by showing what they could do. And now, as the ancient anomaly drifted slowly closer from the dark beyond, the greatest question remained unanswered. Would the Council cling to pride? Or would they finally stand beside the species they once mocked? In deep space, dark matter warships drifted silently between stars, waiting, preparing, and watching the galaxy decide its future. The Council of the Stars was not ready to admit defeat. A secret alliance formed between several of its strongest members. They called it the Shadow Strike Coalition. Their plan was simple: strike at human shipyards before the dark matter fleet could grow any larger. The leaders believed they could cripple humanity before it became a true threat. Admiral Reth was summoned to command the operation. He studied the target systems carefully. Human facilities were hidden behind deep asteroid fields, cloaked in complex gravitational distortions. Every scout ship sent before had returned with incomplete data. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, "our probes are not penetrating the fields. We only see empty space beyond." Reth frowned. "Keep trying. The Council expects results." Days passed. The fleet approached the first suspected shipyard. Even with full stealth, the humans seemed to know they were coming. Signals were blocked or redirected. Space itself seemed to bend slightly, making long-range scans almost useless. "Impossible," one of the fleet commanders muttered. "It's as if they are hiding behind reality itself." "Not hiding," Reth said quietly. "Preparing." The strike fleet moved closer. Cloaked scout ships slipped ahead, hoping to detect the massive shipyard. What they found instead was a hollow field. Sensors picked up nothing but the faintest gravitational ripples. Before the fleet could react, every ship experienced a minor pulse across its hulls. Artificial gravity fluctuated slightly. Crew members stumbled, consoles flashed, and minor alarms rang. "What was that?" shouted one officer. Reth's voice was calm. "A warning." Another pulse followed, stronger this time. It moved in perfect rhythm. Not chaotic, not accidental. Each wave precise, controlled, and unmistakable. The fleet tried to advance, but the pulses increased in frequency. Each one disrupted engines, shields, and sensors. Even the stealth systems failed to hide them from detection. The humans did not need to fire weapons. Their control over gravity and dark matter was enough to stop the fleet before it even reached striking distance. "Withdraw," Reth ordered, but the ships could not move easily. Engines faltered. Some crews had to manually recalibrate stabilizers. The dark matter warships remained unseen, but their influence was everywhere. A sudden alert appeared on the flagship sensors. The gravitational field behind the fleet shifted. Calculations showed that any aggressive movement toward the suspected shipyard would crush the entire fleet in seconds. "They knew we were coming before we even entered," muttered the sensor officer. "Yes," Reth said. "And they did not even have to show themselves yet." He activated a secure channel to the coalition leadership. "We cannot strike. Human forces are controlling space itself. They are everywhere and nowhere." The reply was panicked. "Impossible. They cannot have such power. Our fleets outnumber them." "Numbers mean nothing," Reth replied quietly. "They bend the universe, not just ships. This is beyond weaponry. This is physics." The fleet had no choice. Retreat was the only option. As ships reversed course, the minor gravitational pulses continued, guiding them out without harm. They left the system intact. Not destroyed, not harmed. Only warned. Reth watched from the bridge as the last warship passed the outer belt. He realized the truth. Humanity's dark matter warships were not just weapons, they were deterrents incarnate. A single demonstration could control entire fleets without firing a shot. Back at the council chamber, reports of the failed strike caused outrage. General Kane slammed his fist on the table. How could they know? How could they control us before we even engaged? Lyra spoke softly. They do not act like conquerors. They act like guardians. Kane glared. Guardians who could destroy us in an instant. That makes them just as dangerous. Vero remained silent for a long moment. The humans have prepared for a threat we cannot yet see, he said finally. And they will not allow us to interfere until they are ready. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations whispered in astonishment. The supposed secret of human power was now confirmed. Fleets could vanish into gravitational folds, dark matter could be manipulated, and space itself could be weaponized without a single missile fired. The Council realized it had underestimated humanity. Not only that, the Shadow Strike Coalition had failed without ever firing a shot. Every fleet sent had been warned, gently but unmistakably, of the consequences of aggression. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy witnessed that power alone was not enough to dominate. Knowledge, preparation, and restraint were far more dangerous. Admiral Reth returned to the council chamber in silence. He knew the outcome of the next confrontation would not be a battle of fleets, but a test of will. And deep in human space, dark matter warships remained scattered between stars. Invisible, patient, watching the galaxy carefully, waiting for the moment when they would need to act. No attack had been made. No fleets destroyed. Yet the lesson was clear to everyone who had tried. Humanity could control space itself. The Council had learned something terrifying. They had been outmatched, not by weapons, but by a species that had mastered the very rules of the universe. And the galaxy was only beginning to understand the cost of underestimating humanity. The Council of the Stars had never faced uncertainty like this. The Grand Chamber, once filled with pride and confidence, now hummed with tension. Holograms of human fleets hovered above the central dais, their dark hulls absorbing light, bending gravity, and demonstrating control over space itself. Each display reminded the leaders that every strike fleet, every patrol, every attempt at intimidation had failed. High Speaker Vero stood quietly at the center, his long hands clasped behind his back. His eyes followed the projections, flickering with data. 42 confirmed vessels, said Lyra, pointing to the glowing outlines. And hidden fleets may be twice that. Their production facilities are still increasing. General Kane slammed his hand onto the console. We cannot allow this to continue. If we do nothing, humanity will decide the balance of power across the galaxy. We will be irrelevant. Vero raised a hand for silence. We have been outmatched before we even engaged. Open warfare will only destroy us. We must consider diplomacy or survival. Kane's face turned red. Diplomacy? They have shown time, and again they do not need permission. They could crush entire fleets if they wished. Lyra leaned forward. Which is exactly why they have not. They have restraint. They are not conquerors, Kane. They are prepared for something far worse than us. Kane scoffed. Far worse? Do not speak of excuses. Humanity is a threat by its very nature. They defy our authority at every turn. Vero's voice was calm, but firm. We must separate threat from necessity. The humans have demonstrated power. That is true. But they have also demonstrated purpose. Purpose we do not yet fully understand. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some leaders nodded slowly, while others glared at Vero and Kane alike. They are preparing for something beyond our reach, Lyra continued. They do not challenge the Council without reason. Their dark matter fleet exists not to attack, but to defend against a force none of us can yet perceive. Kane turned sharply. So, you would have us bow before them? Align ourselves with a species we barely understand. No, Vero said quietly. We bow to nothing. But we can survive by acknowledging reality. The chamber grew silent. It was true. Pride had guided the council for thousands of cycles, but arrogance could no longer save them. One of the older leaders, Elder Tyrion, stepped forward. We have never faced a species that could challenge physics itself. Humanity bends gravity, manipulates dark matter, and controls fleets without firing weapons. They are unlike anything we have known. Another council member spoke up, and yet they offer no attack. They only warn. They have power, yes, but also patience. That patience may be the only thing keeping the galaxy intact. Kane shook his head violently. Patience is a trap. Wait too long, and they will decide our fate on their terms. We cannot be idle while our fleets are nothing more than toys. Vero studied him silently. What do you propose, Kane? An immediate strike, Kane replied sharply. We locate their hidden shipyards and destroy them. We show them that the council will not bow. Only then will they respect us. Lyra's voice cut through the room. Do you not understand? Every attempt at aggression has already failed. Every fleet sent has been stopped before it could even engage. Human vessels are everywhere and nowhere. Their control over gravity makes conventional attacks useless. Kane's hand clenched into a fist. Then we wait and lose. Vero raised a finger. We do not wait. We prepare. But preparation must be guided by knowledge, not anger. They are not conquerors. They are guardians. And their guardianship is far more advanced than we anticipated. The chamber fell silent again. Everyone understood the truth now. Humanity had not attacked, yet the council had no power to force them to obey. Pride and fleets were meaningless against dark matter warships that could bend reality itself. Finally, Vero spoke, his voice low but resolute. We send envoys, not warriors.
We speak.
We negotiate. And above all, we observe. Because there is something coming from the void, something the humans have prepared for, and we are not ready to face it. Murmurs of cautious agreement filled the room. Kane remained silent, but even he knew the council could not challenge what it did not understand. Across human space, the dark matter warships drifted silently. Their crews monitored the galaxy's movement carefully, aware of every council maneuver, every transmission, every subtle shift in gravitational fields. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars. The ancient anomaly beyond the rim of the galaxy moved closer. They are learning, he said softly. Yes, a young officer replied. But not fast enough. Hayes did not answer immediately. He knew patience would be humanity's greatest weapon. The council had been warned, tested, and humiliated. They had seen what power truly meant, but they did not yet understand why it existed. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity had shown restraint, power, and precision. The council had begun to see its limits. And far beyond the stars, the dark anomaly advanced, oblivious to borders, politics, and pride. Humanity was ready. The council was not. Beyond the outer rim of the galaxy, the anomaly moved steadily.
It was not a ship.
Not a planet. Not even a star. It was a mass of collapsed stellar matter, unstable and ancient, stretching across the void. Gravity warped around it unpredictably. Entire systems could be destroyed if it reached their path. Inside human command stations, every officer understood the danger. Yet there was no panic. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. Admiral Hayes stood in front of a large holographic projection. The anomaly glowed faintly, pulling starlight into its folds. Ships of the dark matter fleet drifted around human systems, hidden in folded space, monitoring every sector, every council movement. Our sensors confirm approach velocity, reported the lead scientist. Time to first contact. 21 years. Hayes nodded. Enough time to act. Not enough to delay. He turned to the fleet commanders. We have the advantage. They do not yet understand what we are capable of. We must maintain it until the anomaly arrives. A young officer hesitated. Admiral, the council still debates. Some factions may try a strike against us before the anomaly arrives. Hayes' expression hardened. Let them try. They will learn the same lesson again, only faster this time. Meanwhile, in the Council of the Stars, unease had replaced arrogance. Envoys had been sent to Earth. Initial talks were cautious. The Council demanded access to human research facilities. Humanity refused. High Speaker Vero addressed the Assembly. They will not yield to our authority. They will not allow intrusion. But they have not threatened war. They act from preparation, not conquest. General Kane leaned back in frustration. Preparation? They have crippled our fleets without firing a single weapon. What more do they need to prove? Lyra spoke quietly, yet firmly. They need nothing. They are preparing for a danger none of us can fully perceive. Their restraint is evidence of foresight. Kane's hands clenched. Then we wait while they grow stronger? Vero shook his head. We act carefully. We learn. We observe. This is no longer a test of pride. It is a test of survival. Across the chamber, members nodded reluctantly. Even the most stubborn factions could not deny the evidence. Humanity had become something the galaxy had never encountered: powerful, patient, and disciplined. Back in human space, Admiral Hayes activated a secure channel to the fleet. Position all warships in strategic orbit patterns, he commanded. Keep hidden from Council detection. Monitor gravitational anomalies continuously. Prepare contingency protocols for the next decade. Every movement of the Council must be noted. Yes, Admiral, came the responses. The dark matter warships remained mostly invisible, their immense mass folded into space. Occasionally, sensors would pick up minor gravitational distortions, pulses, shifts, and subtle anomalies, but nothing direct. The fleet relied on mastery of dark matter to conceal their presence, maintaining a silent barrier between human systems and the rest of the galaxy. Admiral, said one officer, the anomaly's gravitational influence is increasing. Our simulations indicate that if unchecked, nearby star systems will begin destabilizing within 15 years. Hayes did not flinch. Then our work becomes even more critical. Every dark matter vessel, every containment core, every fleet deployment must be perfect. No mistakes. The officer hesitated. And the Council fleets? Hayes' gaze was steady. They are irrelevant until the anomaly is at our doorstep. Let them squabble. Let them debate. Let them waste fleets and pride. They will learn, as they always do. Far across the galaxy, minor civilizations whispered among themselves. Trade routes shifted subtly. Defense pacts with humanity were quietly signed. Even the oldest species, the ones who had controlled the Council for millennia, began sending envoys to observe human space. The message was clear: humanity did not seek domination, but they had the power to enforce consequences if provoked. In the command center of a dark matter warship, sensors traced the faint anomaly as it moved ever closer. Gravity rippled across the void in subtle patterns, like a warning signal. The human studied it carefully, noting every movement, every shift in mass, every hidden fluctuation in space-time. Hayes observed the display silently. We do not confront it yet, he said. We contain, we monitor, we prepare. When the time comes, we act with precision. Until then, patience is our greatest weapon. The fleet remained still, draped in invisible folds of space. The galaxy moved around them. Council fleets came and went. Systems debated alliances. But humanity waited. The anomaly continued its slow advance, unaware of the shadow fleet silently watching from the void. And somewhere, deep in the uncharted darkness, the first tremors of its power began to ripple toward the stars. Humanity was ready. The rest of the galaxy was not. The edge of darkness was coming. And for the first time in millennia, the Council of the Stars understood that survival might depend not on fleets, weapons, or pride, but on respecting a species that had mastered the universe itself. The galaxy had changed. Not with fire. Not with conquest. Not with war. It had changed with a lesson in patience, precision, and power. The Council of the Stars no longer held the unquestioned authority it once did. Its fleets had been tested and found powerless against a species it had once considered young and insignificant. Humanity had arrived, not to conquer, but to prepare, to defend, and to show restraint. High Speaker Vero sat quietly in the council chamber, the pale blue light of the distant star reflecting off his silver robes. For centuries, he had believed in the unchallengeable authority of the council. Now he realized how fragile that belief had become. General Kane, normally loud and unyielding, remained silent for once. The anger and frustration that had always guided his decisions now simmered into wary understanding. Even the most stubborn factions of the council had begun to accept the new reality. Humanity was not a threat because of ambition. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with because of foresight. "Do we send envoys again?" asked Lyra softly, breaking the silence. Vero nodded slowly.
Yes.
"But this time as equals. We will not command. We will not threaten. We will speak. And we will listen." Outside the chamber, across the galaxy, civilizations observed the shift. Traders adjusted routes. Minor powers reconsidered alliances. Even old rivals hesitated, knowing that humanity's reach was far greater than any weapon they had faced. The dark matter warships were everywhere and nowhere, their presence subtle yet unmistakable. They had taught the galaxy a lesson without firing a single shot. Admiral Hayes stood aboard his flagship, surrounded by the silent crew of the dark matter fleet. They monitored the slow approach of the anomaly beyond the galaxy. Its mass rippled faintly across the sensors. Gravity waves stretched and bent in subtle, terrifying ways. "Time until first contact?" asked a young officer. 18 years, Hayes replied. "Enough to prepare. Not enough to delay." He looked at the fleet, at the silent shadows of black warships folded into space. Each one a masterpiece of control, containment, and power. Humanity did not seek war, but it had learned to master forces no one else could. "Ensure all monitoring stations are active," Hayes commanded. "Every gravitational anomaly, every unusual movement, every council action, every minor civilization that seeks protection. We must know everything." "Yes, Admiral," replied the officer, voice steady. Across the galaxy, council envoys finally arrived at human space. They were cautious. They came expecting arrogance, confrontation, and rules to be enforced. They found calm, careful preparation. Humanity did not boast. It did not demand. It only demonstrated its readiness and offered dialogue. Vero and Kane observed the human fleet from the envoy ship. The dark matter warships hovered beyond visible space, massive yet invisible, controlled yet restrained. The demonstration was subtle, but the message was clear. Humanity could dominate entire fleets without destruction. They had power and they had patience. "Do you understand now?" Lyra asked, her voice quiet but firm. "They do not need war to hold the galaxy in check. They have mastered forces beyond our comprehension, but they choose restraint. That is what makes them truly dangerous and truly responsible." Kane remained silent. He understood, finally, that his desire to attack had been arrogance. Humanity had already shown him what it could do, and yet it had not. The envoys left human space with a new understanding. The galaxy itself was changing, not because of fleets, but because of control, wisdom, and foresight. In hidden stations, human scientists continued to study dark matter, gravitational manipulation, and the approaching anomaly. Every ship, every facility, every containment core was part of a preparation plan centuries in the making. Humanity was ready for what the galaxy had not yet seen. And the anomaly moved closer. It did not heed borders. It did not listen to pride. It did not care about fleets or envoys. Only gravity, mass, and destruction guided it forward. Humanity had prepared for it. The Council had not. And so, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. One path led to war, fear, and chaos. The other led to collaboration, observation, and survival. The choice was clear, but only to those willing to learn from the species that had mastered the universe itself. Admiral Hayes looked out at the stars, the black hull of his flagship absorbing light. "We wait," he said softly. "We prepare. And when the time comes, we act. Not recklessly, not with pride, but with precision." The crew nodded. They understood. Humanity's dark matter fleet would not attack without reason, but neither would it falter. Far beyond the outer rim, the anomaly continued its slow march through space, unaware of human eyes observing, measuring, and readying countermeasures. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. Power is meaningless without control. Strength is meaningless without patience. And humanity had both. For the first time, the stars themselves seemed to watch humanity with respect. The Council of the Stars had been humbled. The galaxy had been reminded of its limits. And at the edge of the void, where darkness moved slowly toward them, humanity waited.
Silent.
Patient. Prepared. The era of human mastery had begun. And no one, not the Council, not rival species, not ancient civilizations, would ever forget it.